Good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to mi-brandTV. My name is Leela Singh. I'm a personal brand coach, mentor, and trainer, and I work with career professionals, typically but not always, in the technology industry who are looking to earn more money, to get promoted, and to establish their competitive advantage, and ultimately to advance their career by creating and establishing a powerful personal brand. So I'd like to welcome each and every one of you who is joining here on the live or later on the replay. And so what is mi-brandTV? Today is the launch of it. This is the very first episode, so bear with me. And there may be some hitches. Hopefully, technically, everything is clear. You can hear me. Do pop in the comments. Let me know your name, say hello, and also let me know where you are. Where are you watching this from? Are you in the UK? And if you are, whereabouts are you? If you're not, then tell me, where are you watching this from at the moment in the world? And so basically, let me start by telling you what this show is all about. So we're going to be sharing every week at this time all things personal branding. So what is that? You might be thinking to yourself, what do I mean by personal branding? So I'll share a little bit about that first with you. So for me, personal branding is all about others' perceptions of you. It's about the reputation that we have amongst our peers and also in our industry. Thank you, Sean, for confirming you can hear me and the visuals are good. Fantastic. And so when we talk about personal branding, it's also about what people say about you when you're not in the room. And more importantly, it's the feeling that we experience when we work with you and we meet you and when we hear your name mentioned. Because when we have those feelings, those are the feelings that create lasting perceptions of others. And that's not always in our conscious mind. It's not something we're necessarily aware of. But if you think about the feeling that you experience when you hear somebody's name mentioned, is it good? Is it bad? Are you looking forward to having that meeting or that conversation with someone when you hear their name mentioned? So have a think about that, because that's what personal branding is all about. And then you might be wondering, well, why is this even important? And it's critical for a number of reasons. And it's, first of all, it's critical to understanding, number one, who you are. Number two, what you stand for. And number three is what you want to be known for. And that's whether it's personally or professionally. And more importantly, it's integral to all stages of your career. Hi, Brad, welcome. And so what I'd like you to let me know in the comments is, where are you on your career journey? So when I say it's integral to all stages of your career, it could be a number of things. So for example, it could be that you're starting out, you're quite early on in your career. Or it might be that you've established your career and you're just maybe feeling a bit stuck and not sure where to go next. Perhaps you're seeking to change role or even pivot your career to something completely different, or accelerating your career. So you want to advance up the ladder, maybe broaden your experience, and simply just develop further and grow within your career. And it could be that you're looking to enhance your visibility. Perhaps right now you're feeling that you're not known, you're not heard, you're not known, and you want people to know what you're about. You want them to know what you bring to the table. And by being more visible, this would make it easier. So maybe that's something that you're looking to develop and work on. Or perhaps you just simply want to be a more effective leader. And by having a strong personal brand, it will make others' perceptions of you as that leader much, much stronger. Or possibly you want to develop a personal brand simply because you're wanting to create an industry profile. So whatever it is for you, pop a comment and let me know what that is. Where are you in your career right now? And what is it you're looking to do? What is it you're working on right now? Hi, Mehul, lovely to have you here. So just to recap on that, it could be that you're starting out, you're established in your career, you're looking to accelerate, your career and advance and move up the career ladder. Perhaps you're looking to change role, to pivot to something completely new, to enhance your visibility, to be a more effective leader, or simply to create an industry profile. So what is it for you? Do share in the comments so I can know where you are in your career right now. Hi Zishan, lovely to see you here. It's been a while. So ultimately, when we talk about why personal branding is important, it's understanding who you are, who you are, what you stand for, what you want to be known for. And as I said, it's integral to all stages of your career, wherever you are at the moment. And ultimately, particularly right now, in the environment that we're facing, particularly in the recruitment space, it is important to stand out in your industry. You have a lot of competition right now in your space. So not only if you're job hunting, but even if you're in the workplace, you want to be able to stand out amongst your peers, because it's a very, very competitive environment. Hi there, Graham. Where are you watching from today? Zishan, I know you're in Dubai. Mehul, I think you're around the corner from me. We're neighbors. Brad up in Milton Keynes, I know, and Sean, I know you're somewhere in the UK. So welcome everyone, and thank you for being on here today. So that is why I'm saying personal branding is really, really important. And ultimately, it's addressing the challenges that you might be facing in the workplace or within your career. So share in the comments what those challenges are for you right now. And it could be things like, perhaps you're currently looking for a new role. Maybe you're out of work, you're in the job market, and there's a lot of competition right now for applications for roles. So what are you doing to stand out? How are you going about that? Perhaps you're looking to reinvent yourself. I've had clients recently who've gotten in touch. Hi, James. Hi there from Kent. Thank you for joining. And so maybe you've decided during lockdown that actually when you're able to go back into the office, you want to reinvent yourself. And I've had people reach out to me who are looking to do that. They've been either furloughed, they've been working from home, maybe on maternity leave, so various different scenarios. And they're talking about wanting to reinvent themselves when they head back into the office. And what's interesting, and something I recognized with a client last summer that I was working with, is that we get to realize how we're coming across in the workplace even more when we're working remotely, as many of us are doing right now, because we see ourselves on camera. So interestingly, it starts to show up for you, not just for other people, but for you to see how you are coming across. And maybe you're feeling, well, actually, I want to improve that. I want to have more presence. I want to be more effective in the way that I'm communicating with my peers and my colleagues. So whatever it is right now for you, do share in the comments and let me know what your challenges are, if you have any, around your personal brand and in your career. It might be that you are looking to get promoted, to get the pay rise, simply wanting to earn more money, but you're not sure how to go about it. Something is stopping you. Maybe you've asked or you're not being considered. Excuse me. And so with that, what are you going to do? What are you going to do differently so that you become top of mind for the people making those decisions? And that's what I'd like you to think about. And today, being the first episode of this show, I just wanted to introduce myself and share a little bit about personal branding, why it's important for me, why I do what I do, and also what you can expect over the coming weeks during this show. And I'd also welcome ideas of anything that you'd like me to talk about or to share, or maybe people that you'd like me to bring on and have a chat with. So why am I doing this? Why am I all about personal branding? A little bit about my story. And for those of you who know me, you'll be very familiar with this. For those of you who haven't, this might be the first time that you're hearing it. And so let me just share. Before I do, I can see a comment here from Brad. So Brad, you're looking for a new, exciting opportunity. Comments are key and relevant, working on refining your personal brand to put the best version of yourself forward. Absolutely. And you've nailed it there. That's what it is about. It's about showing up as the absolute best version of yourself. So it's not about trying to be somebody that you're not in reality. It's about bringing out your true, authentic self, being you, but in the best possible way, so that others' perception of you is seen in the best possible light. Because ultimately, when you do that, when you show up as the best version of you, other people will recognize and remember that. And they will also then ultimately have you top of mind, because you'll leave that memory implanted in their brain, even if they don't realize it at the time. And so when opportunities show up later on, you'll be the person that they think of. And that's the situation you want to be in, rather than having to chase after the pay rise, the bonus, the promotion, the next big project, whatever it is for you. You want people to be thinking of you and reaching out to you to talk about opportunities, wouldn't you? So a little bit about why I'm doing this. I'm all about personal branding because I recognized probably only in the last few years actually how far I had come from when I started out on my career journey, which was 25, 26 years ago. So I started out my career as an accountant. And so I qualified and I worked for about 6 years within different finance roles. But the thing was, I was very shy. I was quiet. Nobody really knew who I was, what I was about. And I kept my head down and I worked really hard. Why? Because this approach had always worked for me throughout my studies. So what that meant was I thought, well, if I keep my head down, I keep working hard, I will accomplish my career goals, my successes over time. But what then happened was I had my financial controller at the time. He was leaving the organization and he came to say goodbye and have a little chat with me before he left, because he'd hired me. And he said to me, Leela, when we interviewed you, you talked about your career aspirations, where you wanted to get to. And I have no doubt you have the capabilities. I've seen it over the last couple of years of you being here. He said, but I'm worried that you're going to struggle to get where you want to be. And I asked him, well, why? And he said, because people don't know who you are. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you're about. They don't know what you bring to the table. And therefore, you're almost invisible. That was my takeaway. I'm invisible because nobody knows who I am and what I do. And that sat with me for a while, because lacking confidence and self-esteem in the workplace meant I didn't really know what to do with that. But what I then decided to do a few months later was to actually completely, using the word that we're all talking about, pivot roles. And I moved into recruitment. So I left my accountancy career and I moved into becoming a financial recruitment consultant. Now imagine somebody who lacks confidence, self-esteem, doesn't really speak up, who now steps into that world where you have to be front of mind for people. You have to be speaking up. You have to make yourself known to be successful in the role. And that's what I had to do. So yes, it was scary. Yes, it was challenging. And I could very well have thought, you know what? This is a mistake. I'm going back to the safe place that I knew at the time, which was accountancy. And I didn't. I kept going. And I was very fortunate that I did well in the role. And I spent a couple of years in recruitment. And I've been challenged on that, on why I made that move. But I would always say until today that that was perhaps the biggest, both personal and professional growth opportunity during my 25-year career, because it stretched me so far out of my comfort zone that I realized my potential and what I was capable of. And oftentimes it's easy to stay where we're comfortable and don't take a step outside what is comfortable for us and try something new because of fears of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of what other people might say, of the risks that might be involved. But what I've learned is if we don't take those risks and if we don't try something new, we never get to realize what we're truly capable of. And that's really, really powerful. And so on my journey, after a couple of years in recruitment, I then accepted a role at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. At the time, it was EDS, Electronic Data Systems, which then was acquired by HPE. And initially, I joined, again, in a very new role. It was a corporate finance role, so I didn't have the experience. I had to learn on the job. And I loved what I did. And people might say, well, how do you do it if you didn't know anything? I asked questions. I showed my vulnerability. I reached out to people who were more experienced, who could help, and people I have learned are often prepared to help. So that's what I did. And again, a great opportunity, learnt new things, had great new experiences. And after about 7 years of managing various finance portfolios, I moved across to HPE into their financial services division as a sales executive. And I spent the last 10 years of my career there. And again, for me, if you'd said to me 25 years ago, you should go work in sales, I would not go there with a barge pole, simply because of my confidence and the fact that I was quite shy, I didn't speak up. So I didn't want to do that. But then as I grew, as I learned more, I started to realize what my capabilities were ongoing. And being put into situations like that, I had to learn on my feet. And believe me, we all have the ability to do that. I'm no one special. We can all do that. It's simply about making that decision and taking that first step. So that is my career journey. I chose to leave the corporate world 2 years ago and embark on my new chapter, which is running my own business as a coach, mentor, and trainer, focusing, as I mentioned earlier, on personal branding. So I'm just going to check into the comments. I can see some comments coming through. So James, what is the difference between traditional branding and what I call personal branding? Great question. Thank you, James. Yeah, so you've got branding for businesses, which refers to, as James says, the logos, the colors, the imagery that organizations, that businesses put out there. That's the branding of a company or a business. We then have personal branding. And again, there are different aspects to that. So you have many people who talk about personal branding as your image, the way that you look, the colors that you wear, your dress style. That is one aspect of personal branding. You have what I see as more common is personal branding being your online presence, your social media presence, your LinkedIn profile, the way that you come across online. And again, very, very relevant. My definition, however, of personal branding, my perspective on that is focused more on you as the individual. So looking within and starting from that point to get clear on your values, what is important to you, your perception of you, what you would like that to be, and then looking at how other people perceive you. What are the gaps? What can you do differently to close those gaps, for example? Okay. And there are various aspects to that framework that I've created, which is based on that journey I've just shared with you. So I looked back and joined the dots and almost reverse engineered what I had done to achieve what I did in my career. And I identified 6 aspects of that. And I'll share that with you now very briefly. So first of all, what I just mentioned around looking at yourself, the introspection and getting clear on yourself, getting clear on what you're about, what's your purpose, why do you do what you do, understanding what lights you up and what drains your energy. Because oftentimes there are people who go into the workplace, they're getting paid really well, but the job that they're doing just drains, it saps their energy. And be mindful that that impacts everything else in your life. We can't put things in a box. And I've learned this. We cannot put things in a box and say, right, well, that's my job and that's okay. I don't really enjoy it. It drains my energy, but it's okay because I go home and I have a great family life or a social life, okay? Because everything impacts everything else and influences it in some way. So you want to get clear on what you're really passionate about, what lights you up, and aim towards working in an environment that allows you to do that, as well as adhering to your non-negotiable core values. So that's the first thing, and I call that clarity, getting clarity on who you are. The second aspect that I believe is very important is mindset. So around confidence, mindset, understanding your thought processes and how that impacts you, what you can do differently. And the most important thing here for me is self-awareness. So how many of you are self-aware? How many of you check in with yourself when situations arise and realize that you could have handled that differently? You could have responded differently to something. And this is where, for me, mindset is perhaps the most important aspect of what I look at with people, because we can learn all the strategies, techniques, best practices. But if we don't have a winning mindset, that is the biggest thing that can hold us back from moving forward. And it's always something when I talk about coaching, about working on your branding, anything, it starts with self-awareness. And then thirdly, we look at presence about gravitas and having that strong personal presence when you show up. And that can be online. So whether it's here on let's say if we're on a Zoom call, in a meeting, whether it's in the office, going to see a client, any of those scenarios, and delivering a presentation, you want to have a strong presence. Why? Because 93% of communication is non-verbal. So when we feel, and I often hear this, people say that I don't like to speak up, for example, in a meeting or in a presentation. I don't want to do it because I'm worried about what people will say or what they'll think about me. And actually, people are already making an assessment of you. They're judging you. They're creating or forming an impression based on you before you've uttered a word. So showing up with that presence is so important to creating a compelling impression, be it the first time you're meeting someone or otherwise. So again, presence is key. Then we look at communication, effective communication, how we can present or engage and how we can present or speak in an engaging way and keep people with us rather than wanting to scroll through their phones and switch off or think about plans for the evening or the weekend. So how do we make that more engaging? Because again, if you can deliver an engaging presentation or speak in an engaging way in a meeting, on a conference call, on a Zoom, people will remember you for that. Imagine if you're in sales and you are pitching to a client or prospective client, shall we say, and you're pitching and you've got another organization pitching against you. In your presentations are effectively the same. The price point is the same. If you deliver a more compelling presentation, who are they going to remember them? Who are they going to feel they want to engage with and work with more? And these might sound like very small things, but they're very effective and very, very powerful in the outcomes that we will experience. And then we look at connection, relationships, and why relationships are important in the workplace and how to cultivate them, how to develop them effectively. And this is, again, a big part of it, and something that I'm very aware during lockdown has become quite pertinent for a lot of people, because they've recognized that actually when you're in the office, when you were going out and about and going to meetings, it was easier to connect with people. Whereas now, because we're finding that we're behind a screen 24/7, it's much more difficult. Actually, for me, I believe it's far more easier and a great opportunity right now to utilize this time to reconnect with our network, our existing network, and also if you're looking to expand your network, to do the same, because you don't have to travel anywhere. It's easy to simply pop in 30 minutes in your calendar, maybe during your lunch break, and reach out to someone, have a chat. I've been doing it all throughout lockdown, something I probably would never have done to the extent I have if we didn't have lockdown, because I'd be out and about and traveling, going to meetings and so forth. It's so much easier. And I offer people to just hop on a Zoom chat for a coffee chat, I call it. And you might be thinking, well, how do I do that? What do I talk about? If I've not spoken to a colleague for, say, 5 years, how can I just suddenly reach out to them? Remember, one of the biggest parts of developing a good relationship is developing rapport with that person. And a way of doing that is to find something that we have in common. And right now, we all have something in common, which is the pandemic, the global pandemic and the lockdown. Okay. So yes, we're all having different experiences of that. But broadly speaking, we're all experiencing something about it in some way. And people right now want connection. They want to be able to express themselves and talk about what's going on for them. So it's a great opportunity to reach out, reconnect with contacts, with colleagues, and look to expand your network as well. And we will go into this in more detail in future shows. And then finally, I look at cultivating personal leadership. And that's about bringing all of those 5 aspects together. And by doing so, being able to show up as an effective leader for yourself, in other words, the ability to influence your outcomes, your experiences, but also being able to influence and inspire the people around you so that they look up to you and they want to follow you. In other words, they want to connect with you, they want to engage with you, they want to work for you, whatever the situation might be. So to answer James's question, I hope that makes sense, but the long answer is, those are the aspects that I focus on when I talk about personal branding. It's about you as the individual and how you show up, your mindset, your presence, your communication, your connections, your relationships, and your personal leadership. And I'm just going to stop for a second and have a look at some of the comments here. So Sean, I'm just going to share that up here. My journey has been from blue collar to white collar. In order to rebrand myself, I had to focus on my self-development and studying, gaining experience on both the theory and practical side of my new career. I've also had a problem where I undervalued any previous experience from my previous career path, but now know the value of it and how it's applicable in my career going forward. Thank you, Sean, for sharing that. And that is so, so important. Why? Because I had this conversation, in fact, yesterday with someone. It's one of the things we should do is never shy away from what we've done in the past, because everything we've done, whether it's personally or work-wise, is made us or created the person that we are today, the knowledge, character, the way that we show up. And there's always value to be taken from everything that we've done. When I left accountancy to go into recruitment, I had a number of people at the time challenging me and saying how all those years at university and doing my ACCA have been a waste, and my training as well, because I'm now moving on to something completely new. But I will always stand by the fact that what I learned throughout those years has put me in very good stead for everything I've done since then, and has in some way, shape or form been relevant, some aspect of it. And this is true for any roles that we've had, because there's always something that we learn. So that's great, Sean. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, you know, we can pivot, we can rebrand, we can look at doing something new. I always ask myself, what is the worst that can happen? When I was leaving my corporate career after 25 years, I'd made the decision myself. It was my choice. But even, you know, coming up to the last few months before I was leaving, I was starting to think, oh, am I doing the right thing? And then I just simply asked myself, what is the worst that can happen? And an even better question said, what will happen if you don't give it a go? Because one of the things I advocate is not to live with regrets, to give something a go. If it doesn't work, it's a learning experience for us. Thank you, Sean, for sharing. And let's see. Often it's the opinion of others, absolutely, that holds people back from moving out of their comfort zone. I learned to listen to people who've moved out of their comfort zone and dismiss the rest. Totally. That's so important. Thank you, Sean. Really, really good point. They're very valid. And that is one of the biggest things that hold us back, is worrying about what other people will say. I'll be very vulnerable now, and I'll give you a great example of that right here, right now. This is my very first time going live on LinkedIn. Okay, so what do you think my thoughts were in my mind 20 minutes, half an hour, in fact, even yesterday, if I'm honest, about doing this? Yes, I was thinking, what are people going to say? Are people going to be nice? Are they going to say anything horrible? Are they going to criticize? But actually, I'm going to do what I do. And it is hard. It is hard to take that step and put yourself out there. And believe me, it's not a case that I've been doing loads of lives on any other platforms, whether Instagram, Facebook. I don't. I could probably count on one hand the number of lives I've ever done on Facebook, usually in a private group. Okay. But for me, yes, I had those thoughts, but self-awareness, being aware of what that's doing and how that's making me feel, enabled me to then stop and think, okay, why am I doing this? What is the outcome I want from putting myself out here to going live on LinkedIn? How is it going to inspire others and help other people to move forward, to look at their personal brand and look at, okay, what is possible for me in my career? What can I do more of? What can I try that's something new? And for me, that's the end goal. That's what's important. So yes, there might be people who don't agree with me, people who don't like me. That's okay, because we will always have that. We can only control what we can. And it's easy to say, not so simple to do. And it's about letting go of judgment, of other people's judgment, because people will always judge. And often people will criticize. We need to allow ourselves to let that go and focus on us, focus on what it is we're looking to do. What are our goals? What are our outcomes? What is the difference that we're looking to make in the world? And those are the things will help to drive us forward and take those chances and to take those steps. So again, thank you so much, Sean, for sharing that. Graham, let's see. Hi, Graham. I lost some business once when I turned up in a 2-year-old shiny red MX-5 at a potential client. Said I was too flash and was earning too much money, even though it was secondhand and cost less than a newer BMW. After that, I used a Fiesta. I've heard that said, Graham. I've heard people say, and that can go both ways. Because as a salesperson, you can show up in your shiny new MX-5 and people will be really impressed and think, oh, they're really successful. I must engage with the person. I must hear what they're about because they obviously know what they're doing. And then you've got the other perspective, which is the one you've shared there. So as I said, people will always judge. People will criticize. Do what feels good for you. Do what feels right for you. Again, you want to show up as the best version of you, authentically you. And as I said, people will have opinions. Those opinions are none of our business. Thanks for sharing that, Graham. James, let's see, James, any tips on how to discover or communicate your core values? There's two aspects to this. And in terms of understanding your core values, it's first of all looking at things that annoy us or make us feel uncomfortable or just don't sit well with us. So that's time for actually sitting on your own, having a bit of introspection to get clear on that. What are the things, on the other hand, that are really important to you that are non-negotiable? So as an example, to give you something to think about, for me, I have certain core values that for me are non-negotiable. One of them is integrity throughout everything that I do. One is authenticity. And actually, whilst I had that in my mind over a long period of time, it actually got reinforced when I reached out to people to ask them to share a little bit about their perception of me. And authenticity ran through the theme of virtually all of the feedback that I received. So it reinforced what I felt I wanted to put out there. For me also, growth. I always continue to invest in my growth. I'm always looking to learn, to grow, discover new things. And for me, that's really important, as whether it's personally or professionally. And that's exactly what I share with my clients to help them to grow and to flourish and realize what is possible. Another one is leadership, and that's about leadership, not as a job title, but in the way that I show up. And also what I'm enabling others to do is to show up as a leader in your own right by having those traits, those practices that I shared with you earlier. So those are some of the things for me. And for you, is what is important to you? What is non-negotiable? Maybe it's your work ethic. Maybe it's speaking up honestly and openly. It could be, again, integrity, the way that you go about and the way you approach things. There's so many different values. And I'm happy to we can talk about this in more depth in one of the future shows. So let me know if that's something you'd like me to cover. I'm happy to do that in more depth. And how do we communicate those core values? That will come through in the way that we show up, the way that we communicate and interact with other people. And also when you talk about, for example, your online presence, let's say your LinkedIn profile, that's an opportunity as well for you to share a little bit about that. You don't have to stipulate, these are my core values, but by virtue of what you're putting out there. So let's say it's growth. You could talk about the fact that you're always looking to invest in yourself. You're always reading and learning new things. That exemplifies the fact that you're aware of growth being something that's important to you, and it makes other people aware. So I hope that answers your question, James. Thank you for that. Mariangela, hello there. How are you? Let's have a look. Thank you so much for inspiring me and the uplifting push. I need to hear that today. Grateful. Thank you for going live. You are most welcome, Mariangela. And do reach out. Let me know if you have any questions on any of what I'm talking about today. And Graham, in Germany and the UK, they love a sharp car. The UK can have a different impact. Absolutely. Yes, that is very, very true. And when I was in sales, it was a standing joke that we used to talk about of what cars people were driving and how it would look to show up at a client with a particular car. You're welcome, James. So I hope that's given you some idea as to what I mean when I speak about personal branding and what it can mean for you in your career and in where you're looking to get to right now. So it's worth thinking about, where are you right now in your career? Where is it you'd like to get to? What is a gap? And then what is stopping you? Because most likely what is stopping you is going to be one of those 5 out of the 6 things that I spoke about earlier. So whether it's you're not really clear on what's important for you yet, or who you are, what you're about, how you want to come across. It could be that, the clarity on yourself, as well as your core values. It might be that your mindset isn't as it could be. And maybe you tend to focus on the negatives or on the risks, and you don't look at the opportunities. So that could be something that you can always develop. Maybe your presence, maybe you want to show up in a more confident way, and have people, recognize, want to gravitate towards you as soon as they see you before you've said anything. You want to come across with more presence online, on your Zoom or your team calls. Perhaps you simply want to communicate more effectively and engage with people in a better way. And how can you do something about that? Or it might be the relationships that we spoke about, building those connections, having advocates and sponsors around you. So look at the gaps and see what it is for you. And that leads me on to what's next. So what can you expect from these shows going forward? So I'm going to be sharing with you over the coming weeks some more best practices and trainings around personal branding. So do please share with me in the comments, whether you're here live now or if you're watching this on the replay, any aspects of those that are really important for you, because that will help me to create the right content that will help and benefit you to build your personal brand. And then I will also be looking to host some spotlight interviews where you can ask questions as well, and also have some fireside chats with people. There are a number of people I have connected with over the last 12 months in particular who I would love to get on the show and just have a chat, not necessarily an interview, but just to get perspectives on things, on their experiences, and what they have to share. We're also looking at organizing some panel discussions. One in particular that I am toying with at the moment, I'm just putting a plan in place, is for a panel discussion for International Women's Day, which is on Monday, the 8th of March, I think, from memory. So that will be something to look forward to. And again, any questions, any ideas, any thoughts about what you'd like to see on this show, then do reach out and let me know, or comment here. And I've also had some thoughts about maybe bringing on some recruiters, some headhunters who can share some insights and some analysis about what's going on in the workplace right now. job market rather, and what are the main challenges and some tips and strategies to help those of you who are currently looking to move role. So those are the kinds of things that you can expect to see on this show. I'll be here every week on a Tuesday at 12 o'clock at GMT, and I may add in some extra lives along the way, depending on the kind of things that I want to share with you. But at the moment, those are some of the ideas. So do share with me any ideas you'd have that you'd like to see on here, or in fact, if you'd like to come on and have a chat with me live, and we can organize that, we can make that happen. So just going back to the comments, someone who's a LinkedIn user, why personal branding? So I spoke about that. I've shared a little bit of my story of why personal branding, why that's what I do, why it's important to me, and why I feel it's important for career professionals who are looking to advance their careers. So LinkedIn user, do share your name or reach out and connect with me, and we can have a chat if there's anything I can assist you with, or if you'd like to know a little bit more, or check the replay of this where I share a bit of my story and why I'm all about personal branding. And Mariangela says, I love the tips and tricks on how to improve your perception on LinkedIn. Thank you, Mariangela. I hope I'm saying your name correctly as well. It's a beautiful name, Mariangela. Mariangela, that's correct, I think so. I'd love to know more about tips and tricks on how to improve your presence on LinkedIn. Yep, I can do that. Let me know, Mariangela, is that your presence on your profile, or is that when you say your presence, do you mean your presence on like Zoom calls and stuff, just so I'm clear? Zishan, look forward for more wisdom. Thank you, Zishan, and great to have you here today. LinkedIn user, who are you, LinkedIn user? Emily, hello, Emily. Would love to have you on my radio show and share some tips on personal branding. Thank you, Emily. I'd love to do that. Let's have a chat. Just reach out and direct message me, and we can have a call, have one of those coffee chats that I mentioned. So thank you. Okay, so in terms of what to expect, just to remind you, we'll be looking at best practices and some training around personal branding. So again, do share any specifics around what I've talked about that you'd like me to delve into, and I can deliver that for you. We'll have some spotlight interviews and panel discussions, as well as some fireside chats. And I will see if I can bring on some headhunters, recruiters in due course who can share a little bit about the job market for those who are looking at the moment. So I'm conscious of the time. I had planned for this to be about half an hour, so I've rattled on it enough, I think, and I would leave you to get on with the rest of your day. So before I do, what I would like to say is, until next time, continue to make an impact, to influence those around you, and to create that compelling, lasting impression and build that strong personal brand. I look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. And as I said, do drop some comments in the box below, and I will check them out after this show. I'll see you soon. Bye.